Coming up next on Rage, ladies division competition of the highest possible order as the Yankee Rose, Miss Georgia Washington, gets set to lock it up for the first time ever with the Queen, the Women's World Champ, Dynamite Genie Parker.
Nontitle ladies match is scheduled for one fall, 15-minute time limit. Coming down the aisle from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, here is the Yankee Rose, Miss Georgia Washington.
Georgia has definitely been getting attention since she first showed up late last year, and while she's met a lot of big name stars, this is her first matchup with the Women's World Champion. And while the title isn't up on the block tonight, Georgia knows that a win here would be a massive deal, one that would almost guarantee a shot at Genie for the belt at some point in the future. But people who have beaten Genie Dynamite have been few and far between. Doesn't mean she couldn't, but Georgia's odds are way, way long.
I call it difficult, but not impossible. Georgia Washington's racked up quite a number of wins since she made her debut last year. All right, well, at this juncture, it's just the Yankee Rose awaiting the Women's World Champion.
Genie joked to me earlier. She knows she's going to beat Georgia because tonight, she said, was the perfect time. Something about the ancestors being awful busy lately, and the fact that it's Georgia Washington, who she really doesn't care for a whole bunch.
Her opponent, from Richmond, Virginia, she's an RWL dual champion, and the reigning RWL Women's World Champion, the Queen, Dynamite. Genie Parker.
The Women's World Champ, 1/3 of the Ladies Tag Trio Champions Les Femmes Fatales, Genie Parker. 10, 12 years of this business. An incredible run as Women's World Champion. Next month, it'll be 7 years. Unprecedented. And she never fails to show up looking splendid, Genie Dynamite. Every inch the champion. Well, between Georgia Washington's ambition and Genie Parker's dislike of said Georgia Washington, sparks are gonna fly here. Willie Johnson rings the bell. The ladies come center ring. Genie Parker locks her up. Georgia Washington counters, goes behind. A Russian leg sweep takes Genie Parker down to the canvas. Genie back on her feet. Georgia Washington right there. Rounds her up. A knee breaker. Georgia catches a kick to the head. Genie Parker back on her feet again. Drives a knee into the back of Georgia Washington. Off the top rope. Whoa, what a senton. Genie might have hurt herself doing that one, but Georgia Washington certainly caught most of it. Georgia Washington laid out center ring. Genie going to the other side, to the other top turnbuckle, as Georgia Washington stands herself up. Whoa, misses with the fist drop. Misjudged the distance by a good margin. Georgia Washington slams Genie's head down to the canvas. Georgia moves in. Genie with an elbow to the midsection. A knee, a right, a kick, another, whoa! A spin kick that, whoa, psyched out Georgia Washington, but good. Oh, wow, look at this. Winds her up, has her up over the shoulders, spinning Samoan drop, down goes Georgia Washington. The Yankee Rose starting to catch it at the hands of the sexy soul sister of the square circle. Dynamite Genie Parker drops a knee right to the chest of Georgia Washington, follows it up with a stomp. The Women's World Champ rounds her up, and here we go, boom, hard right. Robs Georgia Washington again, a series of kicks to the chest. Another, oh my, a set of driving knees right into the head of the Yankee Rose. Genie Parker gathers her up again. And there it is, another hard right. Down goes Georgia again. Genie Parker going for the cover right away. One, but only just a one. Georgia Washington kicking out of the pin. Genie Parker rounds her up. One arm slam. Down goes Georgia again. A stomp to the midsection. Georgia putting the brakes on. Dragon screw takes Genie Parker down to the canvas. Georgia misses with the stomp. Delivers a kick to the midsection. Tries for a, whoa, hip toss from Dynamite Genie Parker. And Genie Parker rebounds off the bottom rope, misses with the senton. Georgia Washington just a step too fast. Georgia Washington moves in, drives a knee into the head of Genie Parker. Georgia rounds her up. Collar and elbow, escorts her to the ropes. Dynamite Genie Parker about to catch it here. Look at this. Rope-assisted vertical suplex from the Yankee rope. Georgia Washington starting to really go to work here on Dynamite Genie Parker, knowing full well a win over the women's world champ would mean a great deal indeed. And now into a possible submission. Referee Willie Johnson checking it, but no, look at this. Genie Parker sweeps the leg, takes Georgia Washington down to the canvas again. Genie Dynamite locked up by Georgia Washington, up over the shoulders of Georgia Washington. Genie Parker with elbows to the side of the head disengages Georgia. Genie with a couple of hard shots to the midsection, whips Georgia to the far corner. And now again driving knees into the midsection of Georgia Washington. Those washboard abs are going to be worn out by the time this one's over. Genie Parker persistently tagging the trunk area of Miss Georgia Washington. Followed up with a stomp to the arm. Genie Parker rounds her up again, sets her up for another spinning one-arm slam, and certainly nails it. Genie Parker with a front carry. Oh my, hangs her up the top rope, down she goes. The Yankee rolls, rounded up to her feet again. Quick counter and a kick to the leg from Georgia Washington. Genie Parker counters with a kick to the midsection, spins her around with a hard right, and here we go. Trap squeeze, blocking the flow of blood to the brain of Georgia Washington, and Georgia is fading fast. Her eyes just closed and down she goes. Genie Parker rolls her over, covers and hooks the leg. 1, 2, but no. Willie Johnson insisting it was a 2. Genie Parker might differ with it. Here we go. Oh man, the split leg drop did not connect. Georgia Washington out of the way just in time. Georgia whipped to the far corner. Genie Dynamite delivers a couple of kicks. Turned around into the corner herself. Georgia Washington drapes her leg over the top rope, delivers a kick to the calf. Genie Parker comes out of the corner. Georgia Washington whips her out over the top rope and out onto the floor. The Yankee rolls with a slight advantage at the present time. The referee counting Genie Parker. Whoa, oh no. He just made Genie Parker really mad. Georgia Washington catches a series of shots. Whoa, a battering series of shots from Dynamite Genie Parker. Look at this drape between the ropes again. Genie Parker driving knees into the midsection of Georgia Washington. Georgia on Dream Street between the ropes. Here we go. A boot to the face and out she goes. Out onto the floor. Genie slides out right after her. Gathers up Georgia Washington. Locks her up. Rolls her back inside the ring. The women's world champion starting to press the attack here on the Yankee Rose. Genie off the middle rope. Flying punch takes Georgia down. Georgia Washington starting to really catch it at the hands of Genie Parker. Another knee, another right, another kick, and whoa, there's that spinning kick again. It drops Georgia Washington down to the canvas. Genie Parker quickly making her way to the top turnbuckle. And here it goes, drives the knee into the head of Georgia Washington. Genie again going for the cover. 1, 2. Whoa! Oh no, Willie Johnson really catching it from Genie Parker. I thought that might have been a 3 myself. Genie Dynamite starts driving knees into the chest of Georgia Washington. And man, Georgia Washington taking a battering here at the hands of the women's world champion, Genie Parker. Locked up by Georgia Washington, whipped out onto the floor over the top rope again. Georgia Washington, perhaps displaying some smugness here, changes her mind, decides to come on out after Genie Parker. Tags her with a right, a chop, another chop, and a one-arm suplex on the outside as Willie Johnson initiates the count. Drives a knee into the head of the women's world champion. Dynamite Genie Parker on the defensive here on the outside at the hands of the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington pulls her towards the timekeeper's area. A kick to the chest, a stomp to the midsection, another kick. Georgia Washington working the legs of Dynamite Genie Parker. Genie rounds it up to her feet. A hard, disrespectful slap, a chop. Oh my, a series of shots and a drop kick that takes Genie Parker down again. Georgia Washington. Countered by Genie Parker with an elbow to the midsection, and a hard one doubled her over really good. A hard shot to the midsection as Genie quickly rolls herself back inside the ring. Charges, rolls herself back outside again, going after Georgia once more. A series of shots, constantly working the trunk area. A hard shot to the midsection from Georgia. Genie counters with a right to the head. Another shot to the midsection, another knee to the midsection. My goodness, Georgia Washington's going to be very sore tomorrow morning. Spinning fist. Takes her down, followed up with a series of stomps and kicks. Willie Johnson continuing to count both ladies. Georgia Washington slips through the back door, delivers a kick to the knee of Genie Parker. Quickly decides to make her way back inside. Whoa, hey, wait a minute. No, Genie Parker says, oh, no, you don't. Get your butt back on out here. Genie Dynamite rounds her up. Catches the kick from Georgia. Georgia Washington catches it. Oh, man. Dynamite, Genie Parker rolls her back inside. Oh, she's mad. Look at her. Rolls herself back into the ring. Figuring out where to go next. Georgia Washington swings and misses. Misses with the drop kick. Catches a right to the back of the head from Genie Parker. Genie setting it up here. Whoa, whatever it is going to be bad. Whoa, stunner. And down goes Georgia Washington. Genie Parker. Whoa, drives an elbow into the leg of the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington about to catch that split leg drop, and there it is. This could be the end right here. 1, 2, 3. I don't believe it. Georgia Washington, neither can Genie Parker. Oh, she is mad. Georgia Washington giving Genie Parker a bit more trouble than she had anticipated. Georgia Washington with a right, a slap, and a standing drop kick takes Genie Parker down to the canvas. Georgia Washington drags the women's world champion center ring. Taken down with a drop toe hold by Genie Parker unexpectedly. Genie makes her way to the top turnbuckle. Georgia tags her a right and doesn't even flinch. Whoa! Flying kick takes down Georgia in spite of her attempt to disengage Genie from the top turnbuckle. Dynamite Genie Parker winds it up. There's the hot kiss at the end of the West Fist. Down goes Georgia Washington again. Rebound up the bottom rope, the senton, and Georgia caught all of it. Georgia Washington rounded back up to her feet. Genie Parker rebounds off the ropes, misjudged the distance on that flying punch. Delivers another shot to the midsection. Whips Georgia Washington to the corner. Another kick and more driving knees to the midsection of Georgia Washington. Now followed up with stomps to the midsection. Genie Parker genuinely dislikes the Yankee Rose, Georgia Washington. Her reasons are her own, but that's whatever. Georgia Washington being draped between the ropes yet again, more driving knees into the midsection of the Yankee Rose. And there she is, all messed up. Here we go. Genie Parker charges. There's a boot to the face. Out goes Georgia Washington onto the floor. The Yankee Rose in big time trouble here at the hands of the women's world champion. Genie Parker slides herself to the outside. The referee restarts the count. Georgia rolled back inside the ring. And Genie Parker taking a leisurely stroll as she makes her way back in. Georgia Washington right there to greet her. Sets it up. Vertical suplex from the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington trying to put out the fire here on Genie Parker. Tries for the neck breaker. Genie says, no, you don't. Turns it into a neck breaker herself, and Georgia caught it. Here's the split leg drop again, but no, Georgia Washington rolling out of the way at the last minute. They lock up. Genie up over the shoulders of Georgia Washington. Flapjack face first into the canvas. Dynamite Genie Parker being wound up. Oh, this could be disastrous right here. There's that figure eight. The figure eight leg lock. And Georgia Washington arching the back, stretching the legs of Dynamite Genie Parker. Referee Willie Johnson checking the women's world champion. Georgia Washington has beaten many opponents with this submission move. Genie Parker disengages the legs, tags her a hard right to the face. Genie Parker back on her feet, but the damage may already be done. Hard right spins Georgia around, elbow to the face from Georgia Washington. Georgia with Parker up over the shoulders one more time. Another flapjack face first into the canvas. Georgia quickly going for a pin. 1, 2, But again, no, Genie Parker kicking out. Georgia Washington rounds up Genie Parker. A hard running kick to the face takes her down. Georgia rounds up Genie again. A hard slap, and oh, here we go. The Rockets red glare. This could be it. Oh my goodness, here we go. Here's a cover. She hooks the leg. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, Genie Parker absolutely refusing to give up here. Will not accept defeat at the hands of the Yankee Rose. Stomp to the midsection from Georgia Washington. Georgia with a submission on Genie Parker. Referee Willie Johnson monitoring the situation carefully. Georgia taken down with a sweep by Dynamite Genie Parker. Genie Parker again working. Oh, Georgia Washington with a very quick counter. Genie locks her up, catches a kick to the midsection. Delivers another shot to the midsection. Genie Parker with the front cradle on Georgia Washington, hangs her up off the top rope. Genie Dynamite with Georgia Washington on the canvas, putting the boots and the knees and anything else he can find to Georgia Washington. Another series of stomps. Genie Dynamite makes her way topside. Here we go. Off the top rope, both feet right into the midsection of the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington gathered up. There's the spinning one-arm slam. Boom goes the Dynamite. Here's the cover. 1, 2, 3, and that is it. Dynamite Genie Parker defeats the Yankee Rose by pinfall.
Here's the time, 14 minutes and 52 seconds. And your winner, Dynamite Genie Parker.
I'll give Georgia Washington this much. She sure held out a hella long time against Genie, stretching this one out, till Genie finally gets her down for a 3 count, with less than a minute and a half left on the clock. It may have taken her almost the whole match to do it, but Genie Parker shows everyone again why she's a consummate professional and the top female star in this promotion. Man, I thought Genie would have to drop a transmission on Georgia to finally stop her. Just straight amazing.
All right, well, the sexy soul sister of the squared circle does it again when we return. Scott Steiner versus Jinder Mahal right after this.